Well, Gary, it's a pleasure to have you, man. We're super excited to talk to you. I know you got a lot of things going on, but I think the best place for us to start is really sort of our introduction with you, and
Sure.
that, of course, is the film Fraud, which we talked to Dean. Geez, what was that, about a month or so ago?
Mhm.
Feels like a
Yeah,
lifetime
a
already.
few weeks ago, we talked to Dean. And as we showed Fraud in our festival in 2020, so right before the pandemic, literally days before we went all into quarantine, we all gathered at the Balboa Theater and showed Fraud. Now, Fraud was a film that I sort of give myself a lot of credit for. It's something that I was a cheerleader of this film for a couple years whenever it came out, and it took me about 2 to 3 years to fight for it at the festival and finally get someone to watch it. And then as soon as other people watched it, I'm like, okay, we got something. And super happy to show it. Screened pretty well. And then we were able to get Dean and talk to him a little bit, and he told us a little bit of the backstory of really finding your videos, and so on from there. But I guess the best place to start is really, what was your thought of, just not only the final product of the film, but really just the idea of the project that Dean did with
We,
your clips.
yeah, we definitely love artistic endeavors, and now I'm not an artist or anything, uh, even though I've been dabbling with some documentary stuff of my own. But yeah, when I was approached, I thought it was nonsense. I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't a real Hollywood kind of guy. I thought this has got to be some scammer, somebody trying to play a game. But then I did look into his background a little bit, and found he'd been writing children's stories, and he had his Marcel stuff out there on the internet. And so I was like, okay, let's hear this guy out. And certainly my wife and I, we discussed it, and we were game. I was like, oh, these are just home videos anyway. They're sitting there. We have this huge archive of basically mundane things that we're doing, and I try to spice them up, my style of filming. And you spoke to Dean and stuff, and you've read some of the materials and reviews. Yeah, very uh, impressionistic. I would just go for it because I started out in college as a meteorology major, so right away I have a thing for clouds, and it's so I incorporate things that I like, and there's a lot of consumerism as well, because we're going to, let's say, the boardwalk or whatever, the beach, and you see all kinds of items, and I wasn't caring about, I shouldn't be preferring one item over another. I would just zoom in, and I do have that quirk where I'd actually say what I'm looking at sometimes. So, like, with popcorn or candy bar or whatever. And it was more just a zoom in, zoom out. And my wife's like, "Oh my gosh, you zoom so much." And I have this cheap camera that we got, this video camera. This family down in Delaware was going through a divorce, and it was put on Craigslist that this guy's giving away some video equipment. And I'm like, man, let's go see what he's got. We're down in this area anyway. And we went down there, and he gave me a free video camera, old video camera, but still I was like, I could use this to capture some home movies, films of the kids and stuff when they're little. And it was just like, it's free. And I couldn't believe it. I offered the guy money. He said, no, this is free. He said, my wife's, because they were going through a divorce. And I'm like, okay. I said, we'll take it. And again, there was no plan, no branding. This was absolutely just what's going on. Let's put it up on YouTube, because I have in-laws. My wife is from Germany, what used to be East Germany, and so the in-laws, they would be able to stay up to date what we're doing by way of video. And I would just try to film everything, every restaurant, every bite, hot looking girl walking by, zoom in on that, and make a joke out of it. But again, to me, it was just like, this was like part of our experience daily. Mostly weekends were for filming. But if there's a snowstorm, we're out playing in it, and I get footage of us playing in the snow, or again, everything around the house, and just push record, and then stop, push record. And it's that's, I think, that style that caught Dean's eye, because it was unusual. He apparently, just through happenstance, whatever rabbit hole he went down, he ended up on my page, and I had hundreds and hundreds of videos at the time, maybe even over 1,000 at that time, and they were just about daily routines, going to Walmart, let's say we were talking about Walmart, or going to the bookstore, or just cruising around the neighborhood. And we see some of the Amish, but in the movie Fraud, you see a little bit of footage of the Amish buggy or something, and my wife's reaction to it, which, again, there's so much footage, you tend to forget, or at least I did. I tend to forget, yeah, I filmed that, didn't I? And I try to keep it real. So there are things in there that, some people say, "Oh, that's kind of embarrassing." I don't give a damn, really. I mean, I was never trying to portray myself as, as a brand where I had to guard this brand from any kind of criticism. And so I think what came out of it all was, it was very honest. Now, what Dean, in his mischievous way, he was able to take and craft through through his buddy, Rippin, his editor.
Mhm.
He was able to craft, with an artificial narrative, to use real footage, and most of it our footage. There's a little bit that I know he sampled from elsewhere, and to create something fascinating, and that could keep some, artistically. I mean, again, it's a statement that, that people can be, they can see a timestamp, or they can, just because of the way something is edited, can start to believe that this actually happened. And even my my mother, she saw some of the footage. She said, "Did you guys do?" No, we didn't do that. I said, "This is ridiculous." But it's how it is presented. That was the genius behind it, and I still applaud, the way that was crafted, so that it was watchable, it was believable on many levels, and it even fooled my mom. So, so I have to give, props where, and credit where credit's due. Um, and he licensed the footage, and just, again, it's one of those things. And now, we haven't seen any of the accounting statements since this was done, so we don't know. That's one of the things we've been kept in the dark, and we would like to know, how profitable, or not. I mean, films today, dime a dozen, but it's one of those things where it's just like, wow. It was fun, and it still is remarkable to have been part of that, and that experience. And we got to go to the AFI, the film festival in LA, and check that out, and just a whole new experience, because I hadn't been to California. My wife had, before we got married. Uh, she was in California, and it's just nice. She loves California. I love it, except for the prices. The things are pretty
Sure.
expensive in California. But yeah, so in a nutshell, Fraud was an experience, where it gives to the power, a testimony to the power of being able to edit something in such a way, and to have people believe something that, we never, escaped to Canada or anything. We didn't commit fraud. We didn't burn our house down. But yeah, definitely something that was, fascinating, and still something that's part of, like, hey, we talk about
So Gary, I mean, this is snippets of your life that
it. Yep.
Dean then took, and then him with the help of his editor,
Mhm.
expertly crafted this fictitious narrative that I found highly entertaining. Now you, again, this is your life.
Mhm.
And this is someone basically getting in your driver's seat and retelling these things. So, like when you watch the movie for the first time, did
Yes.
you know, like, was everything just a mystery to you? Or you like, maybe we're going this way, or everything was just brand new for you?
Yeah, both, actually. And the honesty, we knew, that he was going to craft something that would be kind of Bonnie and Clyde. So we knew it was going to go in a direction that, would be so different than the reality, but using, real footage. So yeah, that was the fascinating, the artistic, endeavor. And I was like, yes, I was definitely on board. It was just like, but yeah, when I saw it the first time, I didn't know how it was going to play out. I mean, I was like, well, which pieces of all this, footage, these little pieces of, like, puzzle pieces, that he was able to weave together. Which ones would he choose? Which ones would he not? And there are two versions of Fraud: the one that we initially saw, and then the one that actually got, pushed and released. So I have favorite parts of both. Right, because, I know he had some problems licensing some of the. Like I said, we used a lot of, like, music from U2 in the background and stuff when we're cruising. And the original Fraud had certain music and had certain, images of consumer images that the final version did not. All right, so we got Blu-ray version of that, of course, and so we were part of that. And again, like I said, there are pieces of each one that I like, and it's too bad you can't make an amalgam. Of course, I can. I could sit there and piece together exactly what I want to have the perfect version of fraud, which the
Yeah.
unauthorized version of fraud, and unexpurgated or whatever. Just yeah. So that again, the experience was the first time we watched it, like, wow. So what a statement again! What an impressive feat, artistic feat, to create something that was engaging, and it was a new experience. But even though it's our footage, seeing it in that context, all right, contextualized in such a way that it's a new experience, one that we've never had. But it was able to source all these parts of what we did do in real life. So
Yeah.
fascinating.
Now, did you feel violated in any way?
No.
Because I'll tell you, we showed this in the theater, and
Mm.
at the Unnamed Footage Festival, we really value the lobby we have there, and we try to communicate with everybody after. And the film's very polarizing. People don't understand the context of it or the format, and they kind of walk away confused.
Mm.
And other people that do feel almost scared. Like, one, it's a fantasy. It's not a real narrative, but it feels completely real. And when people are engaged in that, they walk away thinking two things. Oh my God, if I make somebody mad who's an editor, they can ruin me. And two, oh my God, Gary's a creep.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we talked about it on here. Now
yeah,
the
yeah.
butt zoom is what you became known for.
The butt zoom.
I became known for that in my family, the same extended family, aunts and uncles, and they were and people were worried because I would show up at a family reunion and they're like, "Oh my God, my butt's going to end up on YouTube." So it was a quirk. It definitely was a quirk. Creepy on one hand, maybe. I look at it. I was just the way I looked at it. The camera is just an extension of my eye. So wherever my eye would swing to, I'm like, okay, then zoom in on that. Zoom. And uh, at the
Gary, you
beach.
like butts. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm not going. I'm unapologetic. I mean, that's the way it is. So, especially my wife, and I'm just like, and we've had so many interviews. I can't believe, number one, how much press in the internet age. I mean, so much press that this got from different variety magazine. All I could go through indie film, and
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 now you're here with us.
and I'm
And
here.
you've reached the bottom of the barrel, Gary. I'm sorry.
The final interview. And, and you can read including the print. I mean, the different papers and stuff locally that we were interviewed by, and how did we feel like we were a victim? I know, exploited. No. Then my wife, and she's like, she didn't know at the time I was zooming in on her butt because most of the time I filmed this stuff, and I would post it, but she was bored by it. She's like, "Well, I lived that. Why do I want to see that again?" You know, and now
Yeah.
we're proud because we have the archive to go back and see the kids and stuff when they were smaller. My son, he's in college. My daughter, she's in high school, almost ready to finish high school. So, yeah, this is precious in that sense, the memories. And now, like, hey, how many people can say that they were part of this weird movie? Again, just the demonstration of the power of editing and the false narrative and the timestamp to cause people to believe something that's not true, and especially in the era of fake news, where that
Yep.
right when that film came out, and the accusations with the previous administration, the Trump administration, of fake news and stuff. I'm like, but it's very easy to think that people could create an impression that is believable enough through the right editing, through the right snippets and the right timestamps, whatever it is that appeal to authority. Like, oh, I believe that now. That could create something that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. So, yeah, but we're happy with that. We don't feel exploited. I don't feel creeped out, even though it was one of those quirks, just like filming a lot of brand names and stuff. It's just like, okay, I wasn't trying to cultivate a brand or anything. So I was just like, well, if that's a Pepsi and I'm thirsty and I'm going to say there's a Pepsi, you know. And I would do that, and then my daughter would have like an exclamation of something, and then my wife would be singing a song, and then I just put it all together and then upload it, and it was what it was. And then somebody made a strange movie out of it, and it's just like, okay, kudos to Dean and having the courage to take something as banal, really boring because how many people, going down the cereal aisle at Walmart. How I mean, and to think that could be incorporated into a movie or something is that's pretty cool. I mean, it's edgy. And then I wanted to. It said when he came and he approached us, I was like, well, it's not about the money. It's about uh, the artistry and is someone able to weave together to use that vision, even though it can be considered controversial and it does offend some people. Some people feel like, don't you get it? You've been exploited. No, I don't get that because I mean, we've always been on board about art and stuff. I mean, I have a very open mind and I'm very liberal about things, and I like the idea that somebody can take something and take it to a different level and have it be appreciated in a different way. And Dean interviewed us. He did a live, like a Skype interview with our family and stuff as well. Again, we reiterated that we didn't feel exploited or anything like that. It was all in good fun. And to see,
Now, hold on, Gary, let me cut you off there. Now,
yep,
when people, I'm sure people ask you all the time if you feel exploited because it's your family and it
yeah,
feels very personal.
yeah.
Yet, now you're here with a bunch of nerds who love found footage movies. And what we try to tell people is that it's a different type of film because the craft is part of the character. And you learn a lot from where the electric eye is guiding the audience. And I feel
Yes,
like a good found footage horror always feels voyeuristic to the point that maybe you should, as a moral, upstanding person, maybe turn off the movie and not watch this guy break into a house and film a girl in the shower.
right,
Yet, with like Hitchcock, he knows with Rear Window, you feel a level of distance and like you're not a part, you're not an accomplice to whatever takes place on film.
right.
You kind of are now, like in the
Yep.
world where fake news, like you mentioned, dude. The Twitter wars on there try to make everybody a fucking accomplice.
You know
And
it.
the reason I ask if you feel exploited or violated isn't because it's your family. It's because like you mentioned, it's you. The
Mhm.
perspective, the whole film, everything captured is what you were looking at.
Right.
And I feel like that's an incredibly personal insight into you. Like the butt zoom thing. It's like, as an audience member, now I'm being serious this time. It's like, I remember telling people, I'm like, dude, that's his wife. Like, would he, like, if he's not attracted to her, that'd be even weirder, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Right, right,
But I think it's the idea that in the audience, she doesn't know you're zooming.
right.
So people feel like a weird violation there or something. But yeah, I'm just like, people got to see we're in your head at that point. And it's being recontextualized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. And just again, I have no regrets when it comes to any of that. It was natural, it was raw. Believe me, this stuff was also being shared by in-laws, so it was not. So it wasn't something obscene or anything. And sometimes it was. Maybe it was pretty naked, pretty raw in the sense
Yeah.
of the material, and it certainly wasn't polished. And again, we weren't cultivating any kind of brand. They've seen the movie as well, and it's fun. It's I think it's an experience when you put
See,
it
now
in.
your experience is so unique there because when Clark showed it to us, when he finally closed the vice grip and we sat down and said, "Fine, we'll watch your dumb movie that we all hate." There, can you stop? Okay,
And I was right.
Right.
Then we sat down. Me, and the two other programmers, Oksana and Madeline, we're like, "Wait, so what is this?" Like, we hadn't really been listening to you about what this movie was, and we're like, "Is this real?
I understand.
Did they go to jail?" And that's how the audience feels. It's like,
Right.
who the hell?
And it's great.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's
Yeah.
the verisimility. If we watch
Oh boy.
a in-world camera narrative and people don't even at some point in the film say, "Okay, what's real here?"
Yeah.
Then I think you're not hitting the mark
That's
completely.
step one.
You're
Yeah.
right.
And that needs
Right.
to happen in Act 1.
And with fraud, you can say, "Oh, all of it's real."
It's all
Yeah.
and we showed up unannounced because Dean and them didn't know. We showed up at the New York showing of that movie as a family. And I remember they were just like, "Oh my God, they're here!" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "We bought tickets and we came to it, and it's just and we wanted to because New York's not that far away from where I live, so it's like, well, hey, we can do that." And it was a weekend kind of trip, and we got to show up and answer some questions with some of the people in the audience, and it was cool. And again, it gives it just a glimpse of maybe what real stars, real people out there, they have this feeling of, that people are they have an idea of who they are, and I again I go about trying to dispel that and say, wait a minute, that was not us in many regards. Uh, but there are things that are essentially us. We do certain things. We do have habits. We play Monopoly, so when you see something that is taken out of context, which is so important, and then the new reality that it's given, the new life, and some people like that they have a hard time reconciling that. You're fine with it? Yeah, I'm fine with it because it was just an exercise in art and editing, and it shows, it hints at the potential problem in the future where people can, well, I mean, the deep fakes and all this stuff, that people can really change the way we perceive reality on a fundamental level, and people can be, seen in a way maybe that's unflattering, unfairly. I mean, I think some of the, my quirks, my eccentricities and stuff with filming and stuff, that again, I'm totally embrace. I own it, man. I mean, I'm not saying I don't make excuses. And what I really I see with Dean and with Fraud, I mean, it's a touchstone kind of movie. You go back to it and say, okay. I mean, I know he's got his Marcel thing going on now, and that's probably got a lot more marketability than Fraud. Is a strange movie, and it's also, in a sense, it's so short. I mean, because I'm not sure how an audience could even handle another half hour or something of what we were doing. I don't know where you'd have to take that, but we
Well, hold on,
certainly.
Gary. You touched on something interesting. You have another unique perspective here because you've been ushered. Are you a film fan?
No, not really. I mean,
Okay.
when I say not really, I mean, I throughout my life I can name films that I've enjoyed. But as far as art films or special, ones
Yeah.
that aren't watched much, no, no, no. I don't
So,
really have time for
so he, I can we isolate that? But here's the
that.
thing.
We'll put it at the bumper at the beginning of the show.
So now you're in a heavy-handed, essentially art film,
Yeah.
and you've come in. So have you? Oh, okay. There's a indie horror film called Troll 2 that has really invigorated the conversation of like outsider art and so bad it's good.
Right.
And the only reason I bring it up is because there was a documentary made about it called Best Worst Movie. And the documentary, the main subject is an actor in the film. And he made the movie and forgot about it. But then,
He was a dentist.
yeah, he's a dentist, and this cult
Dentist.
following had been growing.
Huh.
And eventually, a crew came out and found him, and they said, "Do you have any idea that people are like celebrating your movie?" And he was like, "Oh no, no clue." So he got introduced into something similar that you did, where you enter this like packed theater atmosphere of a film fest, and everybody's dialed in, and there's a dialogue with the movie. Everybody's thinking about the film. And then he did that, got kind of tired of it, and then brought it home and started showing local neighbors and people who aren't film fans, and was kind of shocked to see that people were tuning out, didn't
Yeah.
care, found it incredibly boring. And he was just like, well, what the hell's going on? And it's something that, me and Clark learned in the film set atmosphere. You can show a movie and everybody's like, this is amazing. Why isn't it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you turn around and you're like, oh, people don't like it, or they don't care, or they don't have the attention span. How's your journey been? Have you invited friends over and been like, dude, check it out. People love this movie. It's
No.
fraud. They're
No.
changing film.
No. What we did, obviously, friends and family, they all saw it. Not everyone liked it. Not everyone got it. Yeah, it just, it's not an embarrassment or anything either. It's certain people with maybe a greater appreciation of art and what was trying to be accomplished by Dean and his team. They appreciate it a lot more. Plus, the people who know, it's like, that's funny how they took that, because there was a scene that in the original Fraud. It's weird to say original versus the one that most people are familiar with. The original one, my wife, a little context, she's a huge U2 fan. I'm talking about Bono as a hero, and we've been to see. Well, in the original Fraud, she takes her calendar. All right. Now this is all they were able to piece it together. So we were actually at campfire roasting marshmallows, but she burns the Bono calendar. Now, my wife is like, "Oh my God, how'd they pull this off?" Because you have the calendar, Bono's face, that it's going into ash and burning, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I said, they got you right there." Because I mean, that was they took the idol down, and but again, that was just, it was more of a personal thing. It was like, because wow, they really understood how important this character is uh, to my wife's life. I mean, I like Bono too. I mean, I think he's almost a superhero to her, though. So,
Wait. So
Marvel's just,
did you actually have footage of her burning the
no,
calendar? Or did they?
no. What they were able to do, because they took the campfire and the calendar hangs on the wall, and some of the footage that I filmed, Bono's there, and she walked by, and the calendar pages moved. But now they were able to basically merge that, and in a way that the
Oh,
camp. So Bono through the fire, you see it, and it's a split second, maybe 2-3 seconds, even that's a little long, maybe 2 seconds, and it's like, oh my God, and it was showing that she was breaking with who she was,
yeah.
and again, it was symbolic, and again, that's not the one that's the common fraud. I mean, that's the one that we got a copy of as well, and so it's just like, but that's a scene that I wish could be in the other one. So there are little bits and pieces that wow, if they could just have incorporated this, and I understand why. Again, some people would be offended, and maybe you'd have to get permission to burn a calendar of Bono. Don't don't get me started. I don't
Well,
know. I don't
Gary,
know.
you seem like he hit the lotto with you, because you seem like the perfect subject. You're
I,
completely chill. You seem super
yeah,
laid back about it.
yeah, yeah,
And yet you just described something that is like not just recontextualizing video, it's like a deep fake equivalent.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
he took real life
Uh,
and things that happened and then created a moment that didn't happen,
exactly,
which
exactly.
which is like the ultimate lie. And the
Yeah,
fact that it's so subtle, dude, I feel like that's the scariest part of that movie.
yeah,
I
and
didn't even know he did like digital work like that.
Yeah.
Like
that's
I
the
know the
thing.
house that burnt down, you didn't actually burn down a house
No,
and film it.
no, no, we didn't. Uh, and that's it. So there are moments, especially in the first one, that seemed like he had watched so much of my footage that he got a feel for the carry us as a family, even if it's just a two-dimensional feeling, that he was right about something. So to take a sacred idol in a sense, and have him burn, in a campfire, the calendar, uh, and when just before that you had the U2 song playing on the radio, that again, that took some thought, and this wasn't just something they willy nilly hopscotch threw together. They actually uh, thought enough about what we are doing in our world, and without having met us. Understand, I was the only one that was the contact at the time, and he called, he told us that the movie's going to take a direction, it's a little dark, are we okay with it? I said, sure. Sure. And it's just I think about it, it's just like, wow, sometimes. And I know, I also uh, it inspired me to think about my life, and what is important, because several interviews, I know Dean's framed it that a lot of my filming styles like images of a person who's dying. All right, that they're flashes of this. So it's like their last glimpse of almost like a review of their life. And I think that he's onto something there. Was that's always been, I want to capture when I would film things, even if it's banal, and even if it's boring. I want to capture something that's the flavor of that moment, whether it is the way the sky looked, whether it is, the certain brand that's shining aluminum foil on the shelf, and with a cheap camera. All right, understand, to still be able to somehow convey to whoever's going to watch this what it felt like to be there, even if they couldn't sense it, because they're not there, present. I wanted to somehow be able to convey something more than just what meets the eye. I wanted them to experience maybe the atmosphere is the word I'm looking for. So I think Fraud, what he was able to put together, even with the fake narrative and all that, it still has the essence of, I'm all about the joy of the moment, So if you're at the ocean and the waves are smashing and crashing, and there's a sound and there's a smell that you can't put in the film, but if you can get a lot of the images that somebody who at least is familiar and has been to the ocean before, they're going to say, wow, yeah, he even got that saltwater taffy with a little bit of moisture on it, that it's starting to melt in the sun. That's the kind of thing that I would try to sprinkle into the footage that I was making, just for relatives and stuff, and just for our own satisfaction. That I wanted to somehow capture. Okay, if there is a mist or fog coming in, I'm capturing some of those little droplets and stuff that are on the plants, or the sand between your toes, and you zoom into my wife's toes, and like, okay, I'm going to see as many granules of sand as I can get. And it's just and maybe, again, maybe when Dean happened upon that our web page, our family web page on YouTube, maybe just that kind of like uh, interest in detail that attracted him too. Because I wouldn't just keep it superficial, even though it comes off as I'm very superficial. I would try to incorporate it does. I would try to incorporate like the blades of grass, um the bikini. I want the string in
Hmm.
that bikini. I want some of the essence that goes beyond just, oh, she's wearing a bikini. No, I want to see the pattern. I want to see the little dangling string. I want to see, I want to take it to that level where it's like, wow, he really had an interest in that bikini. um, and that's the thing. With a cheap camera, I was amazed that I could get as much, accomplished as I was able to. I mean, obviously, it's not 4K or Ultra HD or any of that. Now I do, as you know, I do some. Dean and that whole experience inspired me to make a couple of documentaries of my own about something I've been experiencing now for the last 4 years, and
Okay,
to
now
invest.
before we get into that, I'm
Yes.
curious if now after Fraud came out, did it change how you filmed things? Like, did it
Yeah,
get in your head?
it did it in one sense. I filmed less. I and why I no, not because of fraud, but it was
Okay.
about no. The reason I started to film less, and I told the audience in L.A. at the AFI at the festival, when they had us on the stage with Dean, I said it started to feel as though the camera became an obstacle to the essence of the moment, to that power, the impact of the moment, by always looking through a lens and limiting what I'm looking at just to that I felt like I was cheating myself out of the real quintessential experience. So filming too much it's like, wow, it's now making it artificial. And so I stepped back, and it wasn't because the movie came out at all. It really was, and I said in the film that I really don't film as much because I feel like I want the moment to be real, and there's something that we already have filters, human biases, all this is built in. So we already approach any moment with a lot of things that can limit our appreciation. And including our senses, we're limited to certain senses, and anything beyond that, well, it's just like, we miss out because we're only looking through this prism. Same thing with the lens. So it ended up limiting my experience, my family, and it was just like, well, I don't need to film every moment. Now, a lot of people today, especially with their smartphones and stuff, they're all about capturing everything. That they need the selfie. They need to have pictures of the food they're eating at that moment, and they post it on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand that. I mean, believe me, I was there with a camera, not with a smartphone, but with a camera, wanting to capture everything and having so much extra footage. Then my way of doing it, we had a CD burner, right? So I convert the tape. It was a digital tape, but I convert it to digital on the CD when I burned it. So I'd only choose parts of that too. So I was, again, deciding before I put it on the CD, which would then be uploaded to YouTube. I was deciding what was worthy versus what was, oh, this is just a repeat of this. So there are all those levels of distance from reality, because even that, anything, and anyone into film, and I'm not a person who really, I don't have a background in that at all, but what you want to somehow capture something that's significant, and at the same time not be repetitious, because there were a lot of beach trips. Dean was able to condense Right. Dean was able to
A lot of
convince.
bikinis.
Yes, he's able to condense so much footage into something that was manageable. That people would not be like, "Oh my God, there's another, butt shot," or "There's another, bit of cloud," or what. So he made it so that it was able to move along at a certain pace through the editing and stuff, and through that. But again, that that whole experience, as artificial as that narrative was, the same thing, it became somewhat artificial. If I'm going to always film something, then that quality of genuine authenticity is lost because it's kind of forced. At a point, it becomes like, well, I don't need to film everything. So I started to move away from it, like I said, and about uh, about a year before the movie came out, you could certainly, because the YouTube channel and the number of uploads greatly diminished, and it had nothing to do because we didn't even know the movie was going to happen. So it started. It's like, well, I don't need to keep having so many videos of every restaurant, of everything, and just experience the moment. But yeah, experience the moment for what it is, and that was good enough.
Okay,
And
so
that,
you had come to that conclusion
yeah,
before Fraud.
yes.
It's interesting hearing you talk about that because I think I completely agree with you. I don't think I'm as thoughtful as you, and I also think you are a film fan. You just don't know it.
Maybe I
And
don't know it.
well, here's the thing: like the human memory is so wrong. Like a
Mhm.
lot of the times we just remember shit completely wrong, and the
You
value.
especially.
Yeah, dude, I'm terrible with it. I almost like create my own story in the background
It's
where
Really?
adorable and annoying at the same time.
yeah, I know, and I'm highly gullible. So here's the thing: I sympathize with you, Gary, because I too I love looking through a lens. I like having that parameter, but it is very limiting, and it's very it's very just what it is. It's a 2D rendering of reality,
Exactly.
and now I'm with you, and I try to live in the moment more and really have like a 3D experience and just empathize with people and enjoy the party we're in the middle of. Except, we're such visual creatures that I think film works because we want stories told with a visual component.
Mhm.
And man, if you have footage of something, it really enhances it and you can share it in a way. So I'm completely conflicted. I think it's amazing that you were able to capture as much as you did.
Mhm.
And I'm a little bit bummed that you're leaning away from film. I think we need to get you a GoPro strapped to your head so that you can do both. You can film
That's true.
everything.
Yeah. I have.
Let's
Do not
I,
make him like Raphael. That's what you're doing right now.
yeah. So
I
go
have.
look up a
I
movie
have.
called Descent into Darkness.
Gary, do
Yeah.
not look up a movie called Descent into Darkness.
I
You're
have a
doing just
couple of
fine.
I have a couple of knockoff GoPros that I've used for more modern filming with my two short docu-shorts, documentaries. They're basically 30 minutes long, 29, 30
Wait,
minutes.
what's a knockoff GoPro? Go
Uh, it,
amateur?
yeah,
So,
it's not.
Randy, cut that
I
out.
like it. I like that sense of humor. and that's so I've used that to have more detail in what I'm filming. And as you know, before we done this interview, I mean, I've Dean's movie and that I saw it as an opportunity as well. It's like, well, this is a platform, and this experience that I'm trying to document now with with my knockoff GoPros, go amateurs. Uh, the yeah the it's about investigating the electronic voice phenomenon, which basically mysterious voices that sound human, whether it's audio like pareidolia or something, and just a whole range of if you go through the history of it. And this started happening to me back in 2017, where I got really strange messages on an old school track phone. Again, I'm old school tech, not modern or not a smartphone. And I started again. I thought, man, I'm cracking up. So this is some crazy stuff. I said, oh, this is beyond the pale. This is so crazy. But I started to document it, and I started to make sure that everything, and it was daily, that I was able to make interactions. And this sounds absolutely out of science fiction crazy, but um, I started to have this experience where beings, and I'm going to use that word, entities, ethereal, invisible entities, they started to interact with me and my family, uh, and they would answer my questions before I'd ask them. So when you play back the recording, if I'm asking about pigeons and if I'm going to sell them, the word "sell them" is heard before I ask the question. It scared a lot of people, and it obviously scared me. And I went to see a family doctor, and went, had tests, the wazoo, psychiatric tests, MRI with, high contrast, everything to get to the bottom of something. Saying, is there an organic reason? Am I, is there dementia? Is there some kind of schizophrenia? Is there a brain tumor? Everything came up. I've never been healthier, and it kind of started to bother me because the entities would even tell me to go to the doctor and get blood work. And I'd share this stuff with my family doctor, and he pulled me aside and he said, God told him. He didn't want to scare me. He said, God told him that I have a gift. And I make jokes out of a lot of things. And I said, Doc, I said, if that's true, could you ask God if I could regift this to somebody, to give it to somebody else? I said, because this is weird. I said, number one, in the interviews and stuff, people, they can do a public search. They can see, oh, fraud, so this is a hard sell.
Yeah.
It's a hard sell that I'm trying to say. This is something that I have audio forensic professionals that have done forensic analysis of these clips, and can show just like a picture that you can analyze it with a computer, a software that shows that pixel by pixel, this is not counterfeit, or this is been doctored, photoshopped. Same thing with an audio clip. You can show, is this legit, or is this guy pulling a fast one? And I have the reports and everything. So I have two documentaries out that I recorded in the last 4 years.
Okay, hold on, Gary. I feel
Yeah.
like we need to reset the. So you're talking about like you're getting EVPs,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes.
Now, what was the first one? You were talking about selling a pigeon. I'm interested in just that story.
All right. I have the best way to say this. I have a website, compendium website, with free examples of you can hear the entities say that they're alien. You can hear their voices. It doesn't cost you a penny. If you go to We Are Not Alone and look up the word medium. So We Are Not Alone is one word, and then medium. You can find, that's my compendium launchpad site with all the interviews, all the podcasts, all the press I've been getting, meeting with Josh Gates from the Travel Discovery Channel. Crazy stuff, and it has nothing to do with fraud. But again, fraud becomes this almost like, well, weren't you involved in a movie called Fraud? Are you pulling a right away? I said, well, if you do a public search and stuff, yes, you're going to find that I was involved in an art film, an award-winning film, on my family, and we got some press for that. And I said, but if you want this, that's one thing. I said, this has nothing to do with this except that.
So Gary, okay, so fraud's done, and
Yes.
then you live life, and then at what point what is the first time?
Yeah.
What is the first time you heard?
Sure.
Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I can walk you through everything. December 2017. It's almost been 4 years to the day. That at work. All right, and I usually take my lunch break over in the library. That out of habit, to get away from the kids, so that I don't have to answer questions during my lunch break.
Good call.
So the students have already gone home for the semester, and I willing to do some free reading. So I go to take my lunch break as usual. And I'm getting out Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And everybody's seen the movie. It's actually a very short story. Most people don't know. They're intimidated by the 2-hour movie. I don't want to read a story. The story's really good. But I wanted to reread that kind of in the holiday spirit. So I sit down and I get this really weird sound. And nobody's on the library floor. Students are gone. And I get this sound in only my right ear. And the sound is unlike any ear ringing or anything I've had. It's got a coated crystalline component to it. I don't know how to describe it, almost like an insect, but it's got almost like a code in there. I thought, man, what is that noise? I'm sitting there getting ready to read Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. And then a realization comes. My wife, she was like, about a year before, she said, you got to buy a phone, because I would go, say, if you need me, just call my office. When she needs me, I didn't carry a phone with me. So I said, all right, I'll buy a phone. I bought a cheap track phone, all right, with my daughter at the local Rite Aid in Oxford. And the track phone, old school, not smart, you can't surf the internet and all that stuff. It's an Alcatel A205G track phone, or you can look it up, and it was cheap. So the person behind the counter said $10, and I said, I'm not going to pay $10 for a phone that old. I said, plus I have to buy time. So I talked him down to $5. Person sold me the phone.
My
Now
man.
so going back to the story, I'm in the library. This weird signal, sound, in only my right ear, not both ears. This only ever happens in my right ear. Is there, and it's annoying. And then a thought comes into my head. I don't know how to describe it. Just a thought. You have that old track phone, probably has a digital voice recorder on it. Why don't you try to record this terrible noise? And I did. I recorded it. And on playback, instead of hearing an annoying noise, I heard a voice say my name. It said Mr. Arnold. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, okay, who's spoofing me? What's going on? Somebody's doing something here. And I couldn't figure it out. Nobody's there. And, I was kind of mystified. But, I was like, that's just a weird coincidence. But I left the library as my lunch breaks up. And I was just trying to puzzle. It was a puzzle that I like to solve puzzles. And I left the library and I came back the next day. Curiosity kills the cat. The next day, it happens again. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask a question this time. And I ask a question. I say, is there anybody here? Upon playback, before I ask the question, and that's the weirdest thing, that 9 times out of 10, they answer my questions before I ask them. A voice says, yes, people. Okay, now this is a different voice. Okay, now I'm really concerned, right? Because there's this, it happened again. And I start thinking, okay, maybe I better see the family doctor. I go and I talk to my wife, and it gets serious where it's like, there's something not right here. I mean, this is
How did your wife react to that? Because I'm imagining if Oksana came up to me and said she started hearing something at work,
Yeah.
I'd be terrified and heartbroken.
Yeah.
Because you would just think it's a bad road we're going down right now.
Yeah, and I thought the same. And so we got into the doctor, and he was like, okay, we're gonna get the insurance company to pay for it. We're gonna say it's audio hallucinations. And he said, full blood work. We want to make sure basically every base has got to be covered, every stone turned over. We got to know. We're going to use blood work to see if there's any kind, because there's a chance that maybe even something like Lyme disease could settle in my blood, and then could actually, in its advanced stage, Lyme disease can cause hallucinations, audio hallucinations. But the thing that started to really perplex the other doctors I was dealing with was, I can do this. Now, I can't do it on command. I can't summon these beings, but they will let me know when they want to talk. And believe me, they want to talk every day. So I would play the clips, and the one clip where it told me to get my blood work, the being says that, and the doctor said, I'm going to tell you, he said, this is the first time I've ever taken a prescription for what to do from an ethereal entity. But he's a Christian. Unlike I was raised Christian, but again, I'm much more of a skeptic about things. So right away, I was like in the category, well, I'm not into hocus pocus. So this is like, there's got to be a prosaic reason. I said, so I started down that path, but I got more and more interactions that became clearer and clearer. No longer is it something that's just a whisper. These became Class A EVPs, where the beings, and I say beings because that's what they say they are. They also say they're alien from and otherworldly. And you can listen to that. It's free at that website that I just told you. All that stuff's free. You want to watch the documentaries? I have them at $2.99 each, priced less than a McDonald's value meal, and offering substantially more food for thought. That's the sales pitch. And it's just
so what happened with the blood work?
So everything was clear. I've never been so we started to believe whatever they are, they're mischievous. All right. They're tricksters. They like playing games. I have a recording, and some people said, please don't talk about this recording, because it's probably the one that got me the biggest controversy. And for September, flash forward, I'm having these interactions, and we're talking about everything. We're talking about dead pets. We're talking about they interact with dead people. We're getting data that is being analyzed by professionals, and including people in the aerospace industry. And this is crazy stuff, and I can substantiate every one of my claims. You can see the correspondence and stuff. Like, oh my god! All right, so they're the beings say where they are they don't eat. All right, they have there's a whole realm. I call it, when say a different world, or they're in a different realm, another different dimension, some people would say. So of course it's September 2020. The big question in everybody's mind: who's going to win the election? I go there. I'm like, okay, this is a question worthy of finding out. So I asked the question, and who's going to win the U.S. presidential election of 2020? Play back the clip. Before I ask the question, you hear an emphatic Donald Trump. Oh my God! Now understand. So this sets the stage for trouble, because if I want a way to have half of America hate me, this is the way to do it. And if he loses, then there are going to be people who say, "Oh no, he actually won." These spirits know the truth. There was a no-win situation. I withdrew because I was getting ready, and I withdrew that. I'm like, I cannot promote something like that. That is going to put me in the QAnon category. I'm going to be, if this comes true, I'm going to be the same as that My Pillow guy. I said, I said, I see things as they are. And my wife said, "Thank God you pulled back." I said, "Yeah, I pulled back out of this because this is a nut house." I said, it's bad enough. And this is what I put on the table for the investigators and stuff. And these beings, have you ever heard of something called remote viewing? They do that too. It's called the game to them. They say, "Are we playing the game?" So I've had investigators in Bob Bigelow. I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Bigelow and his aerospace. He has a whole team of paranormal people. You can look it up. They had me doing remote viewing for them where, okay, at lunchtime, they know I'm getting ready to do a session, is what I call them, because these beings, most of the time, they knew I was there. I'm not tethered to the library to do this. They will follow me anywhere now and talk to me when they want to talk. They let me know with that ear ringing. But anyhow, so I had the investigator. He called me. He called me right before my lunch break. He said, "You have 5 minutes." He said, "This is the question we want you to ask. Send us back the answer. Don't interpret." All right. Boom. So I asked the question. They want to know, okay, what's in this container, a blue container on a park bench, Seattle, boom, boom, boom. I asked the question. The being says before I ask it, a battery. I send that back. That's what I hear. It's the right answer. So now these people are more and more interested. They're having me look into things, like looking for, and this is going to scare people, shapeshifters. That they believe there are people here are not people. That they're like, have you ever heard of Skinwalker Ranch and shapeshifters?
Yep.
Crazy stuff. All right. So they basically, I scratched their back, they scratched mine, kind of thing. So I was able to get analysis and stuff done by some of their because it was things that would be cost prohibitive for me to do on my own. So I start to build this network of people, and see, this is it's so crazy because you go back to the Touchstone fraud, and it's like, and some people are like, "Are you really just in this to get back into Hollywood?" And I'm like, "Come on now." I said, "I could think of a hell of a lot better life than to have this weird stuff hanging over me." I said,
Well, Gary, hold on. Now, I know you keep bringing back fraud as this like touchstone and like
"Yeah, yeah,
almost warning sign that like is a obstacle for you. But I think you want to know what your obstacle is that you're a smart dude. And I honestly think that you've already made it clear you're intelligent, you're thoughtful, you're not a huge film fan, yet you understand the medium and why we do a podcast of it without really
right,
diving into it.
right,
So I feel like if somebody wanted to trick me, you could do it. And I mean,
that,
I'm saying that as a gullible. I understand. People
right."
tell me the sky is red outside right now, and I'll run out.
Yeah,
Like,
I gaslight him every day.
yeah, he does it every day. And the thing is, but I know you could do it to other people too. So I don't
Mm.
think it's fraud. I think people see you and they're like, you got to be careful, Gary, because he's
Yeah,
coming in, and
yeah,
I mean that as a compliment.
yeah.
I,
I hear you. And look, this is one of those things. So I'm taking it as it is, and I have a big interview coming up with a skeptic I mean, I've been involved with skeptics, and I said, debunk this, please. I'll sleep better if you can debunk this. I want this stuff gone. And so somebody says, oh, wouldn't you like these entities have asked me to what they really want. They want people to know they exist. It's the Horton here's the Hook thing. Okay. I mean, that's what they really want. They want humanity to come to the realization that we are being interacted, and they say they're dealing with all of us, and that they're whispering in the ear. Now I'm concerned, because when you start thinking, okay, so you say you're whispering in the ears of people, they don't even know you're doing it. For whatever reason, you've decided that you're going to let me know. And one of the clips I have on the website, I asked them, and they said, we're sorry, but you're our favorite. Oh my God. So it's such a manipulation. This whole relationship with these entities is a game. All right. And I believe me, I've had people say, well, maybe you're a targeted individual. Maybe the government's fucking with you. Maybe, and there are satellites. Maybe you're like the Havana syndrome. Maybe you have, and I have had people deal with, they deal with some of that, and they're like, we're going to investigate your clips. We're going to see what you're about. Everything's come up in my favor. That I'm not trying to pull a fast one, that it's legit. You can take the device, and it's not limited to it's all the digital recorders. The old school digital recorders don't use what the modern ones do. The modern ones use filtering algorithms to make it extra clear that there's no static, no white noise. The old school ones don't. They have a certain percentage of white noise in there. That's what one of the investigators, I can't name him because he's got NDA and non-disclosure agreement. He's like, yeah, this is so out there. But I've been using this grassroots up approach, been on these shows and everything, including FM radio stations, just crazy. And it's all there if you want to look at it, and you're going to be like, holy crap. And it just is. I wake up every day and I shake my head saying, oh my God, this is my reality. It's our new normal. My wife, and they say things to my wife. I mean, did I send you a clip of them saying her name? Probably not. I will
I don't
send
think
you.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. They say her name. One is a male and one is a female. And remember, her name's Ancha. All right. Now I know Dean mispronounces it Anchi or Angie or something like that, which is an Americanized version of it. But they pronounce it, and it's clear, and it's like it's disturbing, because I start thinking. I asked the question. I said, "Okay, we had a pet animal recently die. What's the name of the animal?" On the playback, there it is, Cuddles, loud and clear. And I'm like, so you're watching all of us? And they say, yes, we're watching everyone. And I said, how do I know this isn't an adversarial relationship? How do I know you're not whispering in the ears of people like leaders to do horrible things and cause war? I said, I can't trust. That's the thing. All I'm going to put on the table again and again, not interpretation, is the data. The data says something we've been told isn't true. That if these things are here, and I can put this device to record them inside a Faraday pouch, which doesn't let electromagnet, you can't text, you can't phone, nobody's able to crank it. And you can still record beings that those voices shouldn't be there. It really disturbs me. And I'm like, but it's our new normal. So we wake up, we talk about, we joke, and the kids are like, oh my God, Dad, this is like, it can affect and it's spreading. The more, and my coworkers, they all know, and they've seen me interact, and they're convinced, and I'm like, okay, great. And I'm still allowed to work here. I can't believe that. Because
So when the new hire comes in and you're in the break room, and then they're like, hey, what's up with the dude in the corner talking? And they're like, oh, that's Gary. He's talking to the entities.
yeah,
He's trying to protect the world.
Now, Gary, do they seem to answer everything you ask?
Yes.
So let me do the hack thing right now and
Yes.
ask you the one thing that makes every skeptic so happy. It's like, well, why don't they give you the Powerball numbers?
I've asked. I have the recording. And they said impossible. Like there's some prohibition. And no. So okay.
They answered, it's a fraud.
Yes, you're not getting it. I've asked things, and now I've had people approach me who've had their son commit suicide because they think I'm in touch with dead people. And I say to them, number one, even if I'm in touch with dead people, I'm not doing that. I'm not messing with any of that garbage. I'm not asking questions about what your relative's doing on the other side. I'm not even sure there is another side. I'm just trying to say, whatever they are, they like to fuck with us, and that's the bottom line. And to me, even though they get things right when they do remote viewing for people, um, I have had people, my relatives and some of friends, and they have been called by someone who said that I better stop looking into this, or there will be a problem. That that I need to have a normal life and stop it, and or else. It was like an open threat. I actually got a message on a voice message, and it was encoded. I sent this on to these people. I said, I can't figure out what the hell is in this message. Is it like backmasking what's in it? And it was basically saying I would die if I didn't stop it. Okay, so
Oh,
I'm obviously pushing somebody's buttons out there. I'm not backing down. Like I said, I have all this stuff. These investigators all over the place, they have it. I'm sharing it. I'm not making money off this. I mean, even though I have the cheap documentaries, and like I said, they're $2.99 each. And I actually, the second one, Frog Hollow Road, you can go through with me. We analyze the data. We look at the reports from the authentic, executive summaries, everything, the reports from the forensic professionals, and you can come to the conclusions they are at the bottom, and you can read it line for line. And I can send you a copy. I'm that convinced what I've uncovered or whatever fell into my lap is extraordinary enough that people need to know this is out there. And it's probably not a good thing either. They're playing games with us. So there's a threat narrative because I really think, have I been able to benefit from this? I mean, is it making people feel better about themselves to know this? When I was on the one radio station out of Baltimore, 98 Rock, and it was like a Howard Stern kind of show. It was fun. And then they have a caller and they're upset because what I'm saying scared them so much. They pulled off to the side on the Baltimore Beltway and said, I don't want to go to work. That's the kind of thing. Some things people get really weirded out, and you don't know if you're scaring people. I mean, I'm just trying to share, but some people, they'd rather not hear something like that. If it's true, they don't want to know it. So it makes people uncomfortable. That's why, and again, I'm going about this, trying to say, hey, all I'm putting on the table is this exists. Do not believe that these beings are telling the truth. Right? Some people think Gary's made a deal with the devil. I mean, I think no, that he's actually in contact with demons. Um,
all right,
I,
Clark. Hold on, Clark. I'm curious. What do you think about all this?
So all right, I've got several things here. So Gary, my first thing is that my initial reaction with everything is just I feel for you because it just seems like this incredible, limitless, constantly grading burden.
yeah,
And I just feel like, how are you able to? I mean, Gary, we had a great conversation for 30 minutes about, before we started talking about people talking in your ears
yeah,
about, batteries in
right here,
Seattle.
right.
And, and now we're getting to real life stuff here. And, your disposition is warm and cheery. And if I was in your shoes, Gary, I wouldn't be in your shoes because my shoes would be in a coffin somewhere.
Here's how I'm going to tell you. I'm really good at one thing: compartmentalization. And I've said it in interview after interview because the same question comes up often. How do you deal with it? And my cousin used to say, because one minute I'd be listening back in the 80s to Prince, all right, Purple Rain,
Sure.
the album. And the next minute I'd be listening to some Metallica. And he said, how on earth can you do that? How can you like both? I said, I'm able to juggle. I said, one moment this entertains me, another moment this entertains me. I said, I like both of them. And I can just go between how I feel. The same thing with this. I still have a sense of humor. I have the recordings. Again, we could share some of this stuff privately because your audience probably like, oh my God, they don't want to hear
But I
this.
mean, Gary, I like Prince and Metallica too,
Yeah.
but Jesus Christ. This is, oh man.
I actually have recordings of when I've been offended by the vulgarity, by the negativity, by the condescension, because a lot of these beings look down on our species as inferior, as animals. And
I'd agree.
And I've
Confirm.
said, yeah, and I said to them, if you continue this negativity, I will not, because they need me to push record to translate whatever this signal is. I never hear voices in my head. I only hear the noise. So the message, they can make a noise all they want. If I don't understand, I can't share the message with the world. I have said things. I know their weaknesses, and the weaknesses is that they're conceited, they're arrogant, they're petty, and I've had them when I've called them out on it. I've had 12 or 13 messages in a row following. We're sorry. They're apologetic. Imagine uh, uh, in just the mindset of something invisible that you can't touch, that I can say, what reality do you have in my world? You're nothing but a whisper. How dare you speak about humanity this way? I mean, do you really think I'm afraid of a whisper? I mean, and I have to amplify you so that other people can hear your message. And when you have beings that you can't see, you can't interact with except through this medium, and they apologize over, we're sorry. Number one, it can be on one level the biggest trip, like, oh yeah, I got these creatures or whatever the hell, they're apologizing to me. Boy, I must be all that. But again, it's part of the manipulation. I'm nobody special. I say that in interview after interview. I don't know why the hell this crap fell into my lap. I can joke about it on one hand, but at the same time, I've had people in the CIA. All right, I'm talking about, there are people out there that and they know this stuff is real. And most people, they don't want to know this right now because they think that most people will be just like you said. They're not going to be able to handle this. They're not going to go to church. They're not going to go to work. They're not going to pay their taxes. They're going to say, "Fuck it, I quit." There's going to be trouble if most people know maybe what this message is. So I can understand the blowback I've received. I'm like, well, how in the hell are you handling it? And you must be an evil person to be able to handle something. I said, no, I'm not evil. I said, maybe I'm open-minded enough that I can entertain the idea that they exist. I mean, all I'm putting on the table again and again with these films and with all my interviews is not interpretation. Because they say they're alien doesn't mean I believe they're alien. Because they say that, I asked them who in my circle of my family is most susceptible to dying from COVID. They got the answer right. But I don't believe that they're right. All right. I just think that they say things because they know, for whatever reason, whether our idea of time is wrong, that there is no linear progression, or whether they're telepathic, which seems to be what I would think with the remote viewing that they get right. They seem to be able to know things before you say or think it. All right. So that's cool. But if they're not giving me the winning Powerball numbers, then I have a limited desire to do much beyond, a few podcasts.
All
But
right, now Gary, okay. First, I want to tell you, man, I love you. I think you're a hell of a character, and you're incredibly smart, dude. But now at some point, you as a teacher, an incredibly smart, thoughtful dude, you veered into my world now. And here's the thing. Let me help you out. No.
What, just because he said Metallica?
No, because you've
Yes.
And I am similar. I love Metallica and Hannah Montana, not Miley. I have a very diverse pop culture. We're there. But now I don't think you wanted to end up in my world.
No.
So here's a couple of things. I ended up getting into film because I took a community college class, and the first thing I realized is that people in the film world, like air quotes, right? The film. I'm a film fan. I don't call movies, I call them film. They have their own dialogue. They usually try to put their intellect on a pedestal by using words like juxtaposition. I'd never heard that word outside of film. And it's like, dude, all you're doing is so when you ask a method to tell if somebody's lying is when you ask them a question, notice how many words they use and what type of words. If they're trying to do a magic trick, they'll try and confuse you or use big words or they pump it up.
Yeah.
Direct answers are usually the most honest.
Yeah.
And Gary, I don't feel like you're lying to me.
No.
Here's the thing. As a dude who had a movie made about him that was a complete lie that painted you as a criminal.
Yes.
I would think as a dude who had a code in his right ear tell you who was going to win the election. You know what you did there? You took a step back and you looked at it and you said, I can't put this out there because it's an answer that only furthers the argument.
Right.
Yet now I hear a dude who's trying to get us so hard to believe him that you veered into fucking correctly identified like QAnon territory and Alex Jones territory. And here's the problem. Alex Jones, I feel a lot of the shit he's a radio personality. We know this. He's incredibly entertaining. But he also does this thing where he's constantly saying, like, you can look it up. I have it all. You do the work. You do the work.
Documents.
And the thing is, I think he's smart too. And he knows that people who passively digest a lot of media, they don't look up anything.
Yeah.
And this is why news is kind of garbage now too. So I have homework for you. I think
Please.
you need to get
a homework. You have some.
You have some homework for you.
A homework. A homework assignment.
No, here, come on. Now, here's the thing. You have to dive into the conspiracy world. And I know that's not going to help your argument, but you'll identify the pitfalls of that community. Right. And I think a lot of the time they kneecap themselves, and they like, because you're veering there just like you veered into film. Like you weren't a part of that world, but you've been accepted by it. And my problem is, you went and saw a doctor because you're like, holy shit, I might be schizophrenic.
Right.
But here's the thing we learned from Sandy Hook. A lot of schizophrenic people do listen to Alex Jones, and they're the ones that will propel you up. And of all the shit he's talked about, like the frogs being gay and all these, the chimeras being experimented on, the shit he got hung up for was the Sandy Hook. And not because he said it, but because people acted on it. So my fear is that you're going to get more people pulling over on the side of the road scared to go to work, which is not what you want. Admittedly, it's not what you want. So me and Clark, before we did this interview, we jumped on your YouTube and we couldn't figure out what the EVP things were, because you have a visual component and the phone. But as somebody, I mean, God, our second guest on the show was a paranormal hunter.
Yeah.
And it's, we looking at it, we've been doing this for years. I couldn't tell what you were articulating there. So I think you're a highly intelligent dude, but you've fallen into the film trap. You're using words. Dude, you mentioned some sort of device that decodes analog. There's a bag that blocks out outside interference. I feel like you need a long blog post that's just really dumbed down. You need a Twitter where every question you ask, it's set up question, answer, nothing else, no editorializing. Maybe you put like the literal EVP in there, and you really lay it out in a simple format. Because, dude, you got one thing working for you. You're incredibly interesting. So, even I think, because me and Clark, we always have to think, what are the people listening right now going to think? Sure. And I think there's clearly a bunch of people are going to be like, oh, Gary's insane. Like, he worked on fraud, but you have 2 documentaries. And if we learned anything from like Bad Ben, we love like quirky characters. So you have that. You can get people to watch your shit. Yeah. Just dumb it down for us. Because honestly, I'm worried about the documentary and being like, holy shit, we're going to have to hit up Gary because I don't know what we just watched.
And the first one, here, let me give you a little bit more backstory. The first one was simplistic. It was a treasure hunt. You could have sprinkled in some EVPs, and then you had an analysis of several clips. That's it. But my son, who is he's a scholar. All right, he graduated valedictorian. He's the real deal. He's a dual major physics. All and he said, "Dad, I need the data." He said, "We need to look at the." He said, "That's what." He said, "He's a believer, but he said, I want my crowd to be convinced." I said, "Okay, I will include these forensic reports, which I don't understand." I said, the one person, they did an analysis of a clip. All right, and this is the pigeon clip, which is. I raise pigeons as a hobby, all kinds of pigeons from around the world. It's crazy. I can show you. There's such a thing as a rainbow pigeon that has rainbow colors. Nobody knows about this stuff because we only think of the drab city pigeon. I had too many white homing pigeons. Now, to me, white pigeons, homing pigeons, they're generic. They're not worth much versus my other pigeons worth a lot of money. Right, so I have like emerald doves that actually their feathers are, light hits the feathers in such a way it acts like a prism. The light comes out, it looks green. It's like emerald. It's beautiful. All right, so those are worth a lot. the pigeons that I wanted to sell, it was back in June 2020. Those pigeons weren't worth much, but the earringing happened. I said, I'm going to see what the ethereal beings think about this. All right, so I asked, should I sell my white pigeons? Before I ask it, an emphatic Class A, which means everybody who hears that is going to say, I heard that. Not like, oh, it sounds kind of, it's sell them loud and clear. So okay, so I did sell the pigeons, but not because they told me to. I don't usually act on their advice. I'm just like, well, I was going to sell them anyway. So but I had that clip because it it made a personal connection just as much as when they talk about my wife and they say questions and they ask us about things and they interject personal things. So this pigeon clip, I said, it's only a few seconds long. Let's have the professional, all right, do this. It's called an acoustic fingerprint, all right, subliminal fingerprint. They took an hour after hour. They have the bleeding edge computer software. They peeled away the layers. Right? Understand, they're looking for information that the computer then pieces together, saying this is not random. So they uncovered on a subliminal level. Now understand, the actual EVP is audible, all right, so that can be heard. But beneath the EVP, when they peeled away the layers, there's a conversation going on between a man and a male and a female, it sounds like. The one person says, how much do you think he'll get for his pigeon? Another person says, is it a homer? This is all going on before I ask the question, before the EVP is said. This is in split-second stuff. Now, it doesn't make any sense. It absolutely, but here it is. So you can peel away the data. There, the computer analysis, which, is not subjective in the sense that if people hear things, computers looking for, does this waveform match this waveform? Is it genuine? Is it, so that's the way to do it, because the subjectivity of people just listening and hearing what they want, and the pareidolia, that whole thing is real. You gotta, again, you always never want to, you don't want to believe your own hype. All right. So exactly. And I'm being real here. So this, I needed to have confirmation of what I suspected all along. I suspected that there was something underneath the clips, more messages, and there is, and that's the scary. It's scary because you start thinking, man, am I in some kind of is this real? Am I? Because when this started, I honestly thought there was I use Occam's razor. I'm sure you've heard of that, right?
Yeah.
The explanation that requires the least number of variables is usually the right one. And the right one to me was like, well, the least number of variables is crazy, or I'm in a coma. And this is all some kind of fantasy while I'm in a coma, because nothing makes sense. It's dreamlike in the sense that, can this be real? But, here I am every morning, like I said, I shake my head and say, oh my God, this is real. All right. Maybe this is all a simulation that we all exist in. Maybe. I mean, when I went back, like I said, I was raised Christian. But I've always believed if God is real, that we are nothing more probably than ideas in God's mind, this universal consciousness. And that's, so that kind of like, there's something to my interactions that thinks there's something to that, that these what appear to be sentient beings that they're able to say things that answer intelligent responses. It's not something that's like, well, yeah, when I ask about my pigeons, they answer about my pigeons. When I ask about what do you eat in your realm, they say they don't do that. All right.
Hey, Gary, what do you think about singularity?
You mean going back to the original?
No, well, I heard Neil Blomkamp talk about like Siamese twins who could communicate because their brains were connected,
Yes.
and kind of how multiple consciousness, what it actually looks like when we're truly connected. Like if we were going to have a hive mind, the human race,
Yes.
we would all kind of lose our personalities and meld into like one. And I've been thinking a lot about like Western culture and how we're moving in a direction where like gender's under question and everybody's moving away, and there's emphasis on the self, but yet we're connected digitally. And then I think about film, and I think you should watch a movie called Her.
Her.
And do you know that film?
Never heard of it. I will
Okay,
check it
it's
out.
Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with a app on his phone. It's kind of like Siri. The
Wow.
thing is, it's an artificial
it's
intelligence.
operating system.
It's an operating, yeah. And
Nice.
the AI gets free, and the way that the AI evolves, there could be an argument made for what you're experiencing. And I think it's interesting to take it in a digital direction instead of a spiritual one.
Right.
And I'm just curious about that. I have so many. I've been taking notes. One,
Yeah.
can you ask the entities about crypto for me? I need to find some shit coins that are gonna make me money.
Yeah, you don't want to do Bitcoin. No, it's actually on the upswing again. So it's over 50,000.
Yeah, our engineer who's been silent the whole time got in early. Again, fuck you, Randy. Now, so your son's on board, and he's fact driven. What's your
Yes.
daughter like? Is she a skeptic?
Yeah, she wants it to go away.
Okay, now okay, now I was hoping that's true. Here's what you do. You watch Her, then jump into the Blackwell Ghost, the franchise. Now, I don't care if you're a found footage fan or not, but the way that he makes his movies, I think would work for you. You already got the eye for it. You know how to work a frame, but he uses a kind of very grounded, very personal method of capturing film, and he's doing so. I don't believe the Blackwell Ghost is real. Clark, are you there with me? Correct. Okay. Well, he's doing EVPs too and like ghost stuff, but the way he presents it could work for you. Now, your son is cool, but he's already a believer. You team up with your daughter and have her talk shit the whole time, and you play off that. I would love to see that. Also, you get your daughter to sing the song that she sang in Fraud that me and Clark had stuck in our head. That's right.
What I'm willing to do, like I said, it's not about the money. I'm willing to send you the links so you can watch this stuff for free.
I'm going to rent them. Okay. You'll get my $3. Sure.
Right. I think the first one is more artsy fartsy. And you'll like that probably more because it's not data driven. It's more like I'm walking through a cemetery. I do the cemetery as the backdrop to say, well, there's a certain gravity. And you know what? Back in the mid 90s, I used to work in a cemetery. I was a groundskeeper. It was a summer job. And, I got to see people, at the end and that experience. It's all there encapsulated in the first one. And that's Subterranean Séance. The second one,
also, I just have to tell you, I love that title.
Yeah,
it is an incredible title. Yeah, I'm no irony there. I genuinely love it.
Thank you. And then the second one's called Frog Hollow Road, and it's not about frogs, but I have a clip where I asked a question about the spirit animal that somebody has, somebody I didn't know, and I asked it was. So what this person's spirit animal is. Before I ask the question upon playback, you hear the entity, and this is weird. When the entity wants to talk about an animal, it will try to almost make a comical voice like the animal. It's almost like you would imagine a frog would answer the question and says, is that a frog? All right. And then we have the cuddles, the rabbit, the pig, when the answer is a pig, all right, it will try to sound almost pig-like. It's weird, and but it is something that I've been trying to figure. Okay, I have a regular life. I can only devote so much time to this, right? And it's just like so. During the little bit, the small window of time I devote to the commission. Okay, well, if you want me to get your story out that you exist, and that's all I'm saying. Let other people decide whether it's legit or what you're saying, because I hear what I hear, but the investigators that I work with, they don't want to hear what I hear. They just want the clip. All right, so I send the raw clip right from my phone, text it, and send it to them. They break it down. They do their analysis. They get back to me, and they say whether the remote viewing is correct, whether the message is this is what they're saying, and that's the way to do it, so that I'm not involved in. Because again, there are people out there, they hear this stuff and they get weirded out. And then they start to think, what the heck is going on? Is he talking to something that is dangerous for everybody? And I don't want to be on anybody's hit list. I mean, it's bad enough. And when I was talking to Josh Gates, my wife and I, we were there and we were talking to Josh Gates and my website that I told you about has picture and stuff, and I have a picture of Ansha with him on a different website. But I mean, he's been exposed to a lot of stuff, and I gave him a thumb drive filled with freebies. I said, take this with you, have your team check it out. I said, all I want, at the end of the day, is to have this puzzle figured out. What's going on here? I said, do I want recognition? Everybody, this part of me is like, man, I sure would like to have a few $1 million in the bank. But the truth is, if it is something that like Donald Trump won the election, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's worth the sacrifice. I did not want 50 million people hating me, and I did not want. Even in this, because I could share that clip and you're going to say, holy crap, what do you mean by that? And I said, yeah, it's legit. What does it mean? I don't know what it means. There's no evidence in my mind that he won the election. But I think there's an element of mischievous quality about them and the games that they play. And, believe me, I got blowback from people who are in authority who said, this shouldn't be shared because this can cause trouble.
All right, Gary, here's the thing. I saw you write down her. I really think you need to watch The Blackwell Ghost. And not for any entertainment value. Do you think he should go start at 3?
Okay, because I want Gary to live his life. Is what I want.
No.
Look, I don't think Gary's here for movie recommendations.
Her and Blackwell Ghost 3. All right,
it's all right. I will check it out. I think. I have so much that I believe me, I could talk for hours. I almost have to go in a few minutes. I'm sad to say.
It's okay. Yeah, we're winding down here.
Yeah, it is mind-boggling stuff. And when somebody at the end of my days, whenever that is, and they look back and say, "Man, that guy really lives a different kind of life." Yeah, I hope that's the case. I hope in my tombstone they're like, push boundaries, try. I'm open-minded. I think one of the reasons that I've gleaned that they are willing to actually have me say things to other people about them is that I'm open-minded, and but they do sometimes border on naughty is the wrong word. I mean, there's a negative quality about a lot of them. There are a few. I'm going to say, if you want to, there are a few that I would say AI is close to what I feel like I'm dealing with. But there's some consciousness there, but it seems artificial. It seems like even some of the vocalizations, like if you hear them say otherworldly, and that's a free sample on that site, and I have it, and they say it before because I give them like a selection. Well, what are you? Are you spirit? Are you alien, otherworldly, etc.? And then they answer otherworldly. And so I'm giving them a selection. I'm actually limiting the response, which may be in an incorrect way to try to get to the truth. I'm just like, all right, so are you alien or spirit, alien, or something else? All right. So, and I change up the order in the questions so I can get, if it's the same response and I've asked the question in a different order and they're giving me the same response, well, then maybe that's really what they're settled on, or maybe they're still pulling my leg. But I try to play game. I have these researchers who've had me actually take the same make and model of that phone and smartphones, all so many meters apart. I have to do it scientifically, they said, and then have simultaneously record, and then so they can have apples to apples comparisons. They want the data, and I actually believe in the scientific method. If this can't be repeated in a lab, I mean, it has some value, but not the value that is paradigm changing that it can have. If I can say, here it is, it's reproducible, that maybe these messages are obviously outside of our sphere of understanding, because there should, in what I was referring to earlier, what's called a Faraday pouch. There's such a larger version called a Faraday cage, where no electromagnetic signals can get in or out. So there's no way somebody could be spoofing and say, oh yeah, that's the cool stuff. But that's the science end. I'm not a scientist. Again, my background writing and stuff, that's what I do here. But yeah, it's crazy, and I'm in it to win it. So as I put on my webpage, I'm going to share as much as I can with as many people. I got like I said, a skeptical truth seekers podcast coming up with. I mean, this guy's sharp, and it's this Wednesday. It's going to be live. People can call in and they can hammer me, which is fine. I've done it before, that kind of thing. Yeah, I know his style. He's brilliant, and at the same time, a skeptic, as everyone should be. He shouldn't be gullible. So I'm just going to let the data speak for itself. He's got clips and stuff. He's excited. I'm excited. The audience, I hope, don't scare anybody too much. But I always try to preface it saying, please. Ever since that happened on FM radio, where I got the person who was really upset and parked alongside the road, right away, I want people to realize, don't put any stake or anything in any, don't invest any feeling that what they say is right or accurate, just that they exist. That's it. That's as far as I'm going to go. They may be right, they may be telling the truth, they may not be, they may be obviously deceptive and trying to play a game with us, but they exist. That's cool enough. That's all I need. That's the data I keep putting on the table, and the scientists, and when they can peel away the layers and they can get more messages in a 10-second clip, they can uncover a whole bunch of messages beneath the surface. It's like, oh my gosh, is this even possible? And you start thinking again, wow. You just shake your head. That's what I do. Shake my what that what. It's like,
Yeah.
and that's it. I suspected all along there was something more to it than just what I was hearing. But now you have confirmation. And now I'm going to let you in on a little secret. They're analyzing more clips. They're excited because they think when the being says it's alien, that there's probably a whole conversation about their world or something that we're not hearing and we need to hear. So there are people, and that's not costing me money, which is great. I like pro bono. I'll do some and we aren't talking about Bono.
Pro
Time back
bono.
in, no Bono here.
Gary, did you ask the entities about coming on the show? Were they like, don't do it, Gary?
No. I asked them about, do you want me to make the documentaries? Now here's how they talk. We're down with it. That's what they said. We're down with it. And I'm like, you must be shitting me. We're talking about 70s way of talking. We're down with it. And it said
So Foxy Brown, isn't it?
And it said just like that. And I'm like, so my immediate supervisor here, she's heard this. She's like, holy heck. She's like, what because what I do here, I get paid for, is nothing like they know. I basically said, and the way I compare it is, I've been out fishing, and somehow, whatever miracle, I've latched on to some trophy fish, and I'm going to take my time and reel this in. I said, I'm not in no rush. I said, we're going to see where the data takes us. And I said, I want these other people in the end, let the science and the scientists and their reports speak, because they'll be heard in a way that I can't be heard, because I'm not that person. I'm no one special. I happened to be in fraud years ago, and that was fun. And I said, this is as far from fraud as possible. But Dean and them were aware of it. Dean, they were pushing it when the first documentary came out. He had it on his Instagram and his Twitter. I was looking for a different kind of truth, ghost hunting, and he had links. So it's all scratch your back, scratch mine kind of stuff, which is great.
Here's what you do, Gary. Hit up Dean and be like, Dean, you made everybody believe I was a criminal. Now make them believe that I'm talking to people.
Holy crap.
Get him on your side.
Yes.
Run it through Dean. Get Dean to filter this.
He could do it.
He could.
You could.
All right.
Look,
Gary, we got to let you go.
I'm going to close this thing. Would you shut up for a second? No, I'm kidding. But Gary, again, thank you so much for your time. I know we got to cut you loose here, but I just want to tie this in together. I've been for the past 15 minutes just trying to figure out the best way to end this thing, and I don't know if this is what I've decided to do. So here we go. You opened up this conversation talking about clouds, right? And how clouds are, you have a passion for clouds. Now, me personally, I love the sunshine. Russell and Oksana, they love the rain, and I have a appreciation for the rain. I understand that we need the rain, but me personally, I don't know. I've always been more productive in the day. I like the day. I like the sunshine. I like the clear blue sky. A few weeks ago, Gary, I have to travel a lot for my job, and so I'm flying a lot, and not particularly keen on flying, but we do what we have to do, and a few weeks ago, we had a bad storm here. We were able to take off, and turbulence, of course. But once we flew out of the storm, I felt much better. It's like I was out of the storm. It's nice and clear blue skies above all the clouds, and it's great. couple weeks ago, then I had the opposite feeling about that, where I was flying into Houston, Texas, and it was nothing but a blanket of clouds and just nothing. You could see nothing but just a clean blanket of clouds all the way through. Now I was a little high, and I had a hell of a time in that airplane, just fantasizing about the clouds, and I was above the clouds, and then we descend into Houston. Now, because the blanket was so dense, and I had no idea. They kept telling us on the plane that we're near our descent, and as soon as we get through those clouds, in 2 minutes we land. We're that close, but you couldn't
Wow.
see anything. And it went from above the clouds, it was just as blue as it could be. And then we go through the clouds, and it is storming in Houston, and it is gray and dark. And I immediately get sad again because the beautiful blue sky is gone. And, and secondly, I'm stuck in Houston.
Right.
So I had a 5-hour layover in Houston. So that's another reason. But, I bring all this up to Gary is just, perspectives change. And I think that, this talk today has certainly changed my perspective as, Gary, we're going to be big supporters of you, and anything that you need out of us, we're here for you, man. So
All
I
right.
want you to
Thank
know
you.
that. And that, yeah, with you've opened us up a lot today. Frankly, I'm a little scared and exhausted after our talk today. But you've flown me above the clouds, and I'm
Thank you.
seeing things from a different perspective today. So I just want to thank you for sharing everything that you have. I know that this is not easy on you, man. But we are supportive,
Thank
and
you.
we got your back, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate giving the opportunity to share with you and your audience. And yeah, and please watch the documentaries and let me know. I mean, there's the email, just the same one you sent this link to. And I'll respond. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. I just, again, I just want to know that people um, get some kind of vibe from it and the feeling, and just again, it's really about it's about like everything, trying to get people to engage the material. Whether you're an artist and you want them to see your art, most people do want to share their art form. Whether you go to a museum, whatever, the art's hanging on the wall, a gallery. The same thing with video and stuff. I'm not. I'm not a person who's a filmmaker. In the sense, I have one interview and they called me a filmmaker, and I'm like, really? I just don't feel like that. I feel like this is just that's one way to capture what's going on through that medium, of recording. I said, but I'm not. I don't consider myself a filmmaker. I don't aspire to be a filmmaker. But that's what the one press interview, they called me a filmmaker, and I'm like, okay, well, and again, what if hey, if it works for them and it helps them get somebody to look at it, great. But yeah, please let me know, please. And again, I will share if you have more questions. I will share privately information. So things that maybe you'll like, and maybe even do a remote viewing or something for you. And just
All right.
I,
Can you
I'm not.
ask him
I'm
if
not
we
trying
should
to
quit the show? That's
make.
what I
Yeah.
want to know.
All right.